like the overarching theme of all the things that I do is what is empowerment? And I think it really is in context, like how do I teach people to be more reliant on their inner world than the outer world for validation? Whether it's, doing the gratitude journaling or even like the clarity journaling to figure out who am I, what feels good to me, like learning to like really lean into your intuition, leaning into trusting yourself when it comes to making decisions or, making moves in your life. So it's really all about you. Like, how do I make you see yourself as amazing as I see you right now?
All right, welcome back, folks, to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. And today I am here with Cheryl Sutherland. Cheryl.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing very well. Something I forgot to ask you while we're off camera, but I'm going to ask you now. Where are you? You have a very awesome background there.
I'm actually in Toronto, but I love using this background. It's actually a room divider that I got from IKEA. Fun fact, it comes all in one bit. And so I ended up strapping it to the top of my car and driving it from Burlington to Niagara Falls. So don't do that. Get it delivered if you do not.
Are you one of those people holding it on the roof the whole way on the highway? Yeah.
So I had for some reason I had plastic, like that industrial plastic wrap. I had that in my car and some twine and some IKEA angels, like random people helped me. But we opened up my sunroof and I was holding on to it as I'm driving over the Burlington Bridge. Things are good.
I knew a guy who actually, for some reason, decided to drive a Mini to IKEA to pick up some really big things. Who knows why? But he drove a Mini, and he has a picture of like how he strapped things to the roof, and the stuff that he was buying was bigger than his car. Who knows? Got a lot of eyes.
The same.
Yeah. It's just one of those moments you're like, okay, you have a big car at home too, don't you?
As long as folks don't drive by, you're okay.
Oh, I think the police would have had a good giggle there too. So anyway, Cheryl, let me just hand the baton to you to introduce yourself to everyone and what's Cheryl all about?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. This is always so fun to have like these really juicy conversations and learn more about, you, and then just even learn more about myself as we have, get into the nuances of things. Hi, my name is Cheryl and I am a mindfulness speaker. I mainly speak on a lot of mindset aspects. How do we change the way that we see things so that we can get the results that we want? A lot of the things that I delve into has to do with the modality of using affirmations, using journaling to kind of rewire our brain to focus on and create more of those results that we want in all areas of our lives. I've been doing this sort of magic for 8 years next month. Oh, this month. This is my 8-year anniversary. Oh my gosh.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I initially started off with my product-based line called PleaseNotes back in California, and then expanded the line from there. And, the latest offering that I get to do is have these really great conversations, do a lot of workshops on both mindset, gratitude, stress relief, DEI, all of these little bits to help you become your favorite version of you. So that's me.
Wow, that's a lot. So let's unpack some of that. So one of the things when off camera, I asked you like, hey, what's the message you want to make sure people hear from you within the first few minutes of this podcast? And you said being cognizant of what you think about. Can you expand on that and what makes that important?
Yeah. So there was a study that I read that was really shocking to me. It was a Harvard study that said by the age of 18, about 95% of our thoughts about ourselves, others in the world have been hardwired into us. And I don't know about you, but the people that I was around during those ages, a lot of that information that got poured in isn't stuff that's useful anymore. Like, yeah, I made it to my big age of 37. Look at me adulting. But how much of that is still supported with where I want to go and who I want to be and what I want to create? Just even thinking of the way that, you deal with guilt or self-esteem, asking for what you want, even self-identity, like those things that we got aren't supported for us now. So what do? Well, we have to actively work on changing those thoughts. And by practicing new thoughts that we want to be true, then we're actually able to use our brain to support us. We have neuroplasticity. So we can actually actively start focusing on what we want, who we want to be, what we want to think, and then start changing our attitude, changing our minds, changing the way that we see ourselves. And so you can feel like you can go after the things you want, that you can have the amount of leisure or success or play or joy that we ultimately really deserve in life. And I honestly am leaning into, what does satisfaction look like in all areas of life? And that pursuit of satisfaction has really led me to starting my own company, and then also supporting other people and having access to these tools so that they can live a deeply satisfying life as well.
Satisfaction. I mean, how do you define that?
I think for me, it's like like when you finish eating like a delicious meal and like you're
Yeah.
on vacation
Mm-hmm.
and like the kids are around and you're just sitting there and it's this level of just like relaxation and just joy. And this moment is absolutely perfect. And just like that lovely mental snapshot, that's what satisfaction feels like for me. Like that this moment is just everything that I've ever wanted and so much more. Like my senses are pleased, my heart is pleased,
Mm-hmm.
everything just is perfect. And I think that we have unfortunately been taught that those moments are very small and few and far between and fleeting. And therefore, like when they happen, we often just expect them to be gone soon, or we like, are afraid of them going away, or something bad is going to happen because I feel this good. But what if you could feel this good on a regular basis? And it plays into all these different ways, like being able to show our kids that we can have satisfying lives, and like that's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Being able to just even reduce like the amount of stress and anxiety that we have on a day-to-day basis, lengthening our lives. Or there's just so many different ways that could play into, but we have to believe that A, we deserve it, and B, we can have it.
I'm asking this because this morning I was just reading this Harvard Business Review article where talking about there's a lot of folks who basically their self-worth is attached to their job.
Mm,
So we spend most of our time, most of our day in some sort of job, whatever that job might be. And folks, there's a lot of folks who say, hey, oh, something's not working here at work. I guess I suck. All right. And I think, you're talking about satisfaction. And I wonder how those two things might be connected, because if your self worth is connected to what you do on a daily basis and how well you're doing it, how do you handle those bumps in the road? Right. And so I guess what's your take on that? Like, when it comes to like self worth and someone identifying with their job only and getting satisfaction. I don't know, how all those might be related, but what do you think?
well, I mean, I feel like there's no problem with you getting satisfaction out of your work. Like I am a self-professed competitive person. Every time I've been in a job, it's just like being able to like hit that highest tier on the commission
Mm-hmm.
scale, or just be like, yeah, go after a goal, and you're like, yeah, I did it, like look at me helping people, yeah. But we also have to understand that like that's also not who we are. And so I know, especially right now, there's a lot of people that are going through this whole shedding process, like where a lot of their jobs are laying them off. And it's not like they've done anything wrong. It's not like they weren't really good at what they're doing. They were just one of the people that were randomly picked. Or possibly it could be that they weren't really supposed to be in that job for anymore, like
Mm.
any longer. And then so like they did get let go and it just didn't work. And then it's just this whole crisis of identity of like saying, okay, well, what does this mean about me? And like all of these different things. However, I think that's really asking you to pay attention to how you're feeling about this specific thing. Like if you felt good about yourself, like if you had satisfaction with you in yourself, and like that sort
Mm-hmm.
of confidence and knowledge that like you're a really great person, you do really great work, that everything is always working out for you. Something like letting go from a job, of course, it's going to suck, but you're not going to get caught up in this shame spiral that can often affect a lot of people. One of the things that a lot of people have not had a lot of conversations around is, again, with these layoffs, and then you're going out, you're looking for another job, but you're still feeling angry, hurt, upset, despair, like all these different things by being let go from this company that you put so much into. You're taking that into your interview and you're bombing your interview because your
Yeah.
resentment is showing up, right? So,
Yes.
like, even like, what are the things that we can do to separate ourselves or have multiple points of satisfaction in our lives? So that looks like hobbies, that looks like really like delicious relationships, or like volunteering or something outside of ourselves, so that this part of our lives, which is work, does not take up more than 30% of our mental energy in the day, right? So
Yeah.
there's all these different bits, but I think, again, making sure that you know authentically that your self-worth isn't tied into that, and not being able to tie yourself too much into having your self-worth, again, attached to your work.
Yeah. You do a lot of like I was looking at your LinkedIn recently too. You do a lot of engagements like related to DEI as well as mindfulness, and it looks like you're out there really helping folks with what we just talked about, but as well as other things. Yeah, no, don't cross your fingers. You don't need to cross your fingers. I am sure you are helping a lot of
I
folks.
receive that, David. I am helping a lot of people. My work has value. Like, I'm doing great things. I'm changing the world. Yes.
I personally, I've been asked the question like, what impact do I want to have on this podcast? I'm not attaching myself to likes or number of views. I'm attaching myself to affecting one person, right? And I know it's going to be more than one person. It's more than one person, and so that's why I love to ask folks that too. But just related to your work, I guess if you can talk about like how do you help others, with your business, you do a lot of speaking engagements and helping people with branding and mindfulness. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you're helping others?
Yeah, I think it really, like, the overarching theme of all the things that I do is and I feel like it's something that a lot of people just talk a lot about, or that's been said a lot. It's like, oh, empowerment, but like, what is empowerment, right? And I think it really is in context, like, how do I teach people to be more reliant on their inner world than the outer world for validation, right? And I like to do so in different ways, whether it's doing the gratitude journaling, or even like the clarity journaling, to figure out, who am I, what feels good to me, like learning to like really lean into your intuition, leaning into trusting yourself when it comes to making decisions, or making moves in your life. Even with this personal branding workshop that I did for Dress for Success, it was really about talking about how amazing you are, and then putting it in a context that you're able to sell yourself to somebody that might potentially want to hire you, right? So it's really all about you. Like, how do I make you see yourself as amazing as I see you right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So maybe walk me through that, and because this is what comes to mind right away is I believe in myself. Okay, I walked out of this workshop. I'm cool. I believe in myself. I might have even learned some techniques to like intercept some of those negative thoughts and question my negative thoughts about myself. And then I get to work, that assignment I worked on, and someone says, Cheryl, this is pretty bad. I'm disappointed in you. What do you do there? Because
You
that's real
fight.
life, right?
You
That's
fight.
reality, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
fight. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean by
No,
fight?
fisticuffs. No.
Yeah, elbows.
But see, that's the thing, is like, and this is why I'm very grateful that I came out with the product line first and then started doing the speaking and workshops, because there's so many people that are out here preaching the same thing that I'm preaching. Fine, awesome, whatever. But it comes down to the day-to-day implementation and practice of it. So even I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were talking about like really wanting to notice and be cognizant of like how great we're really doing and stop focusing on a lot of like the things that could be better or things we should have done better or blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, the way that we've been taught to do things is to look at like where we need to improve versus leaning into the great things that we're already doing. And so it's a practice of like, oh, I'm in this situation. Wait a second. I forgot that I have the opportunity to take a step back. I'm playing this same habit of thought again. So then when you're coming up to a situation where you're confronted, and again, like somebody says, I'm disappointed in you, instead of going into reaction mode, taking a step back and then being able to recognize that you're in a reaction mode, and then taking that step back and recognizing, okay, tell me more about that.
The
What does that mean to
curiosity.
you?
Yeah.
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 Taking that breath, and instead of reacting, choosing to respond, and then either getting more information and then working through that there. But I think ultimately being cognizant that this might not really be about you, right? Like
Yeah.
everything is not, fortunately, not always about you. And especially a lot of the people that I work with have been people pleasers. So they're so used to being the one responsible for managing everyone that it's just like, wait a second, no, wait, this is a you thing, not a me thing. But
Yeah.
it's that practice. And that's why I love having my product line, because it helps you practice going through those situations and then switching back.
Okay. So practicing, I'm hearing that a lot.
It's like
Practicing
going to the
and
gym.
yeah. How does your product line help with that practice?
Yeah, I think
PleaseNotes, right?
Please
PleaseNotes.com.
notes.
All
Yeah,
right.
check it out. Guided journals. Whoop whoop. But but I think one of the big things that it helps you is just to catch on to it quicker. So it could be that again you're journaling at the end of the day and saying like, this happened. You know, I went into the office and then David was like, oh, I'm disappointed in you, and this is how I felt, and these are the things that I went through, and then starting to kind of unravel those thoughts about, okay, well, why did I feel this way, or this is how I felt. Like, why did I feel sad, or why did I feel angry at myself? Or, you know, because there's, again, two people can go into the same situation and feel two different, completely different things because of how they were raised and their thought processes, right? So, like, being able to go through your own and say, like, okay, well, this is how I felt, this is what I went through. Oh, this is what I made this mean, when really he
Yeah.
was attempting to tell me X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So now when I go into that situation again, I recognize those feelings that are coming up again. I'm able to say, oh, wait a second. I'm playing the same track again. How do I want to move forward with this? How do I want to feel? How do I want this outcome to
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. It is a learned behavior. You are absolutely correct. And someone told me before, it's like, hey, do you have such a big ego that you think it's all about you? And like, even if the criticism is directed at you, do you really think it's all about you? Like, do you have such a big ego that you think it's all about you? And then you take a step back, you're like, oh, I am making this all about me. For that very, and you start, people can start spiraling. And then personally, what I've learned there too is one of the most powerful things to do is just, I had a boss before who he said, I found the best way to work with you, Dave, is just give it to you straight, and you'll just take it on the chin, and then you'll come back and you'll think about it and you'll have a plan. I go, yeah, and one of the things I found the best way to respond to it is go away, think about it, and then go back to the person the next day or next week and say, hey, boss, thank you for your feedback. I wasn't even aware of that. Like, just start there. Thank you. I wasn't even aware of that. Here's what I'm going to do about it. Or actually, I'd have some more clarifying questions, right? Like, when you go back with almost like a sense of gratitude to the person, like, hey, I didn't even know this was happening. Thank you. And it takes those defenses down, and it moves you to problem solving mode right away versus like, oh, I can't believe he or she did this to me. And you're right. It's actually not about you. They're actually trying to achieve a goal, and they want you to help them a lot of times. And that's why they're disappointed. So it's not
Mm.
about you, it's about the work.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just my personal experiences there. Um, but about yourself, like, I guess what made you want to take this on? Like, PleaseNotes.com, helping people be cognizant about how they're thinking about things, how they take criticism, this practice of being cognizant of it. What motivated you, Cheryl, to dive into this? You're smiling, you're
So
laughing. There's a story, I'm sure, right?
yeah, so the Coles Notes version is I have always been a very high achieving person. And I say that not to toot my own horn, but I mean, toot toot right? So my parents are first generation, my parents are immigrants. I'm a first generation Canadian. And so with that, the way that they quantified success is have a good job, maybe finish school, have assets, have your house, whichever, and then just like ride that out until the end,
Yeah.
right? So by the age of 23, I had purchased my own property. I had a paid off car. I was in a
Wow.
relationship. I was working at one of the top 5 banks in Canada. And I was like, what is this? Like, is this what I'm like, this is what happiness is supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when you ask for things, the universe is like, ka, 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 ka. And so I was like, there has to be something more. And then after that, everything kind of, the things that weren't serving me kind of fell away.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is I had this amazing person approach me and say like, hey, have you thought about personal growth? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, my life can't get any worse, right? And so I went to this workshop, and the most, like, it's funny enough, I went to this workshop because they said I could make more money. I was like, good, because I thought that money was the whole thing that would make my life better, because money always makes everything better, right? Sure, why not? And then so
we're gonna clip that out.
right,
I'm
right. No, right. But that's what my thought process was at the time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they also offered it, like, if you went through the whole thing, you didn't get any value, you got all your money back. I was like, man, I'm gonna go to this course and run it, like do it, and then just get my $500 back, because it was US.
Wow.
And then and then I went through it and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe all of the different ways that I've been holding myself back. Like, that was the first time that I started to understand that voice in my head that was just cold and harsh and mean 95% of the time was actually not me, and how I had been allowing myself to be treated. Like, whether it's like, you can't do this, you're not smart enough, you're going to look dumb, people are going to make fun of you, like, your friends are only your friends because you could do something for you. Like, like all of these things that I had been, like, I've been living in my box, which was a great successful box. But could you imagine what I could have created if I didn't have this cap on my own level of success? However, for me, I was at the point where financially I was able to spend the money that I wanted to spend in order to continue on with, like, learning these processes. And other people aren't able to, like, a lot of the people that do need to, or that will benefit greatly by going through these sort of things, don't have the ability to take a week and a half off of work, or like fly down to California, or arrange, like, all these different things. And so one of the things that popped up for me is I noticed a huge difference that this made, especially for entrepreneurs like myself who identify as both female and women of color, when they start doing this sort of work, like tangible differences in their career, and of course, if they have their own businesses, in their business success. But then also, how do I love on people in the way that I like to love on people? And that's by giving them this gift. So making it easy, making it tangible, making it an effective habit, just pouring all of these tools into some really cool, high quality goods just made sense for me.
So you're expressing it through both the speaking engagements you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping others, and PleaseNotes.com, and maybe just talk a little bit about PleaseNotes.com. Like, what is it? We'll have it in the show notes, right? But just for those listening right now, what are you providing there?
I love it. So I started off with the products, of course, and then I got out of my own way and did the workshops and speaking. So PleaseNotes is a line of affirmation-filled goods to help you become your favorite version of you. Our signature items are our guided journals. So we've got guided clarity journals, guided gratitude journals. We've also got manifestation planners, affirmation cards, and each of them use like the time-tested tools of personal growth to help you really start working on that mindset work, starting achieving the goals that you want to, just kind of shift your life around.
Mhm.
Everything has little pops of affirmations, inspirational quotes, all of these things, so that when you're headed towards a new direction, that you can have these little, again, I don't like to call them triggers, but these little pops of magic where you're like, oh no, like this is where I'm going, or this is what I'm planning on doing. Like when you're getting back into that old habit of the thoughts of I'm not enough, I can't do this, like this sucks, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, no, this is where I'm going, and I'm going to keep focused on that.
Okay. And so there's that. And then how do you split your time? Like, do you spend most of your time on that side of it, like, building these products, making these products, selling these products, or do you spend more time like in speaking engagements? Like, how do you split your time as an entrepreneur?
I don't know. No, I think the majority of it, I'm like, they're splitting time. The majority of it, like, I'm really lucky to say that I've been lucky enough to follow my inspiration when it comes to creating new products. So there's the majority of the line, it's all done. There's nothing really that I want to start printing out. There's like something new I'm actually noodling to do for young girls, like a new journal for young girls, but that's going to be like probably late 2024. But
Mhm.
everything else is pretty much done. So it's just the sales component of it, and like maybe some R&D here and there, shipping, that sort of stuff. But where my main focus right now is the speaking, and then doing the workshops, and like spreading the word of positivity, like one stage at a time.
Yeah. So one of the things, so the last few people I've interviewed, they've been doing a lot of speaking engagements and workshops, right? Without giving away all the trade secrets, right? So I respect that, but folks listening here too might be interested, like as an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship is a form of leadership. This podcast is all about leadership, but how do you put yourself out there? Like, how do you get speaking engagements? How do you start getting yourself into workshops and leading workshops for organizations? What are some of the general things that you can recommend to people out there?
Well, first of all, like be very clear on what you do and how you help. When I first started doing speaking, I got a lot of referrals into doing speaking gigs. And then from there, I'd do panels, or I would do like those sort of things, like workshops, and just like more free flowing things where I'd be interviewed. And then people would be like, oh, Cheryl, I saw you at doing the Freshbooks panel. I'd love to have you do my
Mm-hmm.
workshop. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, totally. And then just making sure that you're letting people know what you do. So even creating like a speaking kit, and then of course if your medium is speaking, doing more like little snippets, more little videos, just showcasing
Mm-hmm.
that. That's something that I have the opportunity to work on. But then also some of it is like going to where your people are. One of the things that we've been doing, and I'm lucky that I have that sales background, is we're doing more outreach and like reaching out to my target audience, whether it's like HR professionals or some of these bigger companies that are looking to have more mindfulness and wellness
Mm-hmm.
aspects it worked into their company. And so I'm able to talk to them about like their goals, their dreams, like the impact that they want, and then either create something brand new or present something that I've already got in the bag.
Okay. And so it sounds like the power of referrals and your network and the people you know, and just putting yourself out there and asking for help, right? And asking for referrals as well, right?
Definitely. Having
Mm.
that presence on LinkedIn, especially with my corporate audience, is huge. And it just makes it
Yeah.
a lot easier for them to even like, some of them are just there to purchase goods and like stuff for the holidays too.
Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn is like it is the social network for professionals, right? And I have
Yeah.
some friends who are trying to go out on their own, and I, I'm not doing what they're doing, but I did say to them, I'm like, you might want to get on LinkedIn and start building a presence there, because who you're
Mhm.
trying to target, that's where they are. So I'm curious. Like, I did send you some questions about just interesting facts about Cheryl, and
Uh-oh.
one of the questions I asked you is, What have you changed your mind about lately, and what have you doubled down on? And you mentioned something about the way that grief is perceived and dealt with in the workplace. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So, fun fact, in the last 6 months, we've lost 6 people in our family. And
I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that.
I yeah, me too. And I think especially for myself, I'm so used to thinking, "Oh yeah, like you lose a cousin or you lose an auntie, like okay, yeah, so come back to work." Like even when I lost my father, I was 22, and the way that I dealt with that was really like I need to go to work. I need to have like this level of control so that I just, like in order to be functional.
Yeah.
I need to make things stay the same as much as possible. And so even though my boss at the time tried to fight me, I was like, I'm coming into work tomorrow.
Mm.
But then this year, one of my favorite people, my nephew actually passed away. And just the way that that impacted me was completely different. And then also, even for people in my family, like with my brother, he only got 3 days off and he lost his son. Like, make it make sense.
Yeah.
But then also with that, like understanding, yes, there's the initial time of, having to fly and like make arrangements and, like I own so much property because I own 2 funeral plots now. Like, look at me, I'm adulting. But also, I think with that, like it could be months later and weeks later, or something comes up or another holiday, and you're just like completely incapacitated, like not being able to show up on Zoom calls, not being able to focus, like I remember even a couple months ago, I was in the middle of doing a workshop, and it was like I love doing workshops. The energy was flowing. I felt so good. And then I just wanted to break down and start crying because I missed him so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being able to just really crack open that conversation around grief, how we're supporting our staff members, especially like just even saying like, hey, here's some time off and here's some resources, or like, like we've got something set up on Canada Life where you can get mental health support. It's just like, that's like, what does that actually mean? Like, how is that actually supporting anyone? Because again, we haven't really had those conversations. So
Yeah.
one of the things I'm really passionate about is, especially for corporations, making sure that their staff is set up, and then also like the staff member that's experiencing the loss, but then how does their team wrap around them to support them as well? What are the things that we're doing? Or even again in a sales role, like how are you dealing with like having those conversations and that lack of focus, like being able to as a manager say, okay, these are our new ramp up goals, or just having those conversations with empathy, so that not only your person feels like they have the ability to grieve, but also so that your other staff members see the example that you're setting and are
Mm-hmm.
able to say, you know what, this company actually really cares about me, and, really allowing me to stay here for a much longer time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's heavy, and thank you for sharing that, Cheryl. And it's I'm sorry to hear that that's happened in your family. Grief is one of those things that creep up on you, right? Even if you do deal with it, it could be at any time, and that's the scary part of it. Um, but it's also like it's normal, and I think normalizing it is very important for folks to understand. Like, yeah, you could be doing something, man. You're suddenly going to just fall off, the proverbial cliff for a second, and then you'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then you might fall off again, and it's okay, right?
Right? Like, hey, I just need to go to the corner for a minute. I'll
Yeah,
I'll be back in like 15 minutes. Like you should have seen
yeah,
me at weddings. Like I would MC my friends' weddings and then do
yeah,
the mother or the father daughter dance. I'd be like,
yeah,
I'm gonna step outside. I'll be
yeah,
back in like 15. Right? So
yeah,
there's so many
yeah,
things.
yeah. But it's to normalize that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. We're just human. Crazy but true fact about Cheryl Sutherland. You called yourself the littlest hobo. And by the way, I did understand that reference.
Thank
So
you.
the dog
A
that,
lot of Americans do not.
yeah, yeah. And for the Americans out there, the littlest hobo was a show back in the 70s and 80s on Canadian television. It was about a dog. I don't know, was it a German Shepherd or something?
I think he was a German Shepherd. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know my dogs, but this dog that basically just traveled all across the country, and it would meet strangers, and it would help those strangers out. And who would have known? And in fact, Mike Myers of Austin Powers fame, he was
Mm.
one of the actors in one of those episodes back in the day.
What?
Yes, yes, young Mike Myers, and I'm sure many other Canadian actors had their had their stint on the Littlest Hobo. But sorry, you call yourself the Littlest Hobo. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Maybe tomorrow I'll want to settle down. No. So the thing is with the Littlest Hobo is, yes, he goes from place to place and helps people. And then they're like, stay here with us. We want to take care of you. And he's like, no, I've got to go. But of course, he's not saying that, obviously. I've got to go and help other people, right? And I say that because, like, it's kind of wild how much I've moved in the last decade. I actually just was counting it. And I think it was like 12 or 13 times in the last 10 years. And that includes like moving from Canada to the US, multiple places within California, then accidentally moving to Ontario, and then multiple places in Ontario. And now I've just hit my 1-year anniversary on my own apartment. I'm starting to adult. I feel really good about this. Like, I don't need therapy. No, maybe just a little so traumatic. But I think
we
like,
all do, by the way.
right? But like there's also like it's this lovely freedom of knowing that no matter where I go, if I'm pulled in this direction or pulled in that direction, that it's always for a reason, that I'm going to be able to help somebody or help myself. I'm going to learn something. But then I think most importantly that I'm like always okay, that things are okay. And just, again, that whole onus of like looking outside of myself for security, I'm able to really look inside myself and say like, I'm good.
Yeah. That's it. So you moved a lot, is what you're saying.
I mean, and most of it was not intentionally. It was like, oh, I gotta leave here. Oh, SpaghettiOs. So,
SpaghettiOs. So, what's one piece of? So, just we're starting to wrap up here, and I want to ask a couple more questions of you.
yeah.
For the listeners out there, young leaders, emerging leaders, experienced leaders, what sort of advice would you give to them?
I think my biggest thing is I'm a big person for, I guess, analogies, if I'm using that word correctly now. I don't know. I've only had one coffee yet, so I'm working on it. Anywho.
You need more. I've had 3.
Yeah, my Nespresso, I need to get a new one because it still keeps breaking. Anyway, we'll talk about that offside. But is a lot of the people that we admire are people that are unique, that people that have a dedication to something, they have values, they are very clear about who they are and what they want. However, growing up or, as you're going through your work situation, a lot of the emphasis is placed on fitting in, not being too big, not doing too much, just like being a cog. Mm-hmm. So I like to say that a lot of the experiences that we have, again, all happen for a reason. The way that we were grown up, like the family that we were born into, like the struggles we had to overcome, the successes that we've had, and taking that and valuing it and emphasizing that in the things that you do, playing to your uniqueness is one of the most powerful things that you could do. Now, some people will say that's attention-seeking behavior. And it's just like, no, this is just who I am. Me saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I like to create. This is how I like to do things. And especially on places and platforms like LinkedIn, when it comes to your work, those are the places that people that actually see you for who you are going to lean into you and say yes to you and really gravitate to you. Those are our superpowers. So I would lean into identifying the things that you're really good at, identifying the things that make you unique, and even asking trusted people like, hey, like, what do you think about me? Or like, what are the things that you like stand out about me? Or what are the things that you can rely on me for? And playing to your strengths instead of continually looking at and trying to focus on being better at the things that you're not so great at. I will never be great at math. And I'm okay with that. I have an
Hmm.
accountant for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But a lot of people aren't able to stand on top of like on front of a stage and have this really juicy conversation or lead a workshop the way that I can. We all have
Yeah.
strengths.
Yeah. Lean into your strengths, right? There's a lot of conflicting advice out there, right? But I agree with you when, especially if you're running a business, you're leading a team, you're leading whatever it might be, even your kids, or family or whatnot. It's know what you're really good at and leaning into that. And then, yes, you can improve the weaknesses, but if there's an opportunity to delegate or get someone else to help with it, um, do so. Now, there are some non-negotiables, like, you have to do your taxes. Now, if you can't afford to get someone to do your taxes, invest into it, TurboTax or something like that, right? It makes it so much easier, right? But yeah, delegate the things that aren't serving you, that
Mhm.
you're not great at, so you can focus on the things you are great at. So thank you for
And
that, Cheryl.
but I think right? Like every time
Yeah,
like my assistant is like, "Oh, we need to look at what these transactions are." You feel in your body. Like I feel exhausted. I feel like, "Oh my gosh, my eyes
I
are
know.
getting blurry." It's just like, "Girl, you're not supposed to be doing this." And being okay with not being great at everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm exactly the same. Those little details. I could do it if I had to, but
Mm.
I know there is someone there to help me,
Mhm.
and I rather they do it because my eyes go crossed. And actually, I'm terrible at that stuff, like arranging parties and stuff like that. I get exhausted
And I'm great at
once you
that.
talk about it. I'm
Call me,
terrible.
David.
I
Call
hate
me.
it.
I got you.
Anyone listening to this and know me very well know that I leave people off the list by accident, and it could be perceived in whatever way. But if they know me, they're like, "Oh, David organized it. Oh, yeah, that's why. Yeah,
That's why.
that's why. It's not. He's not trying to be bad or anything."
Just set up like an evite and then just like a list and then those let people like you have an email list for events now.
Yeah.
Same people every time.
Yeah, sorry, I fell asleep there. Not because of you. It's the subject matter.
It's a
Uh,
subject matter.
so, second last question to you, Cheryl. What advice would you give to the younger self of Cheryl? What would you tell her?
These are the lotto numbers. No, I would tell her to not sell that Bitcoin that she bought. First of all, Lord. Uh,
Okay.
Girl, first of all, like I literally had it for like 2 days and I was like, it went down. I sold it. My risk tolerance was not good at that
Yeah, you
time.
you could have bought Google stock or Apple stock,
I could
back in the
have.
day.
I could
Yeah,
have.
that's another option.
That's another option. But the Bitcoin. Anyway, so there's that.
Bitcoin.
Um I think because I'm really good at picking up new things and learning things and you know just like I'm really good at learning things and just in general at things period. Just being okay with things taking a little bit more time. I find that when I was younger, sometimes if things weren't pushed, like moving at the speed that I wanted to, I would try to push it into place. And that
Mm,
usually didn't work out to be very good at all.
yeah.
Like, especially when I made decisions from the place of, I have to do this, otherwise something bad is going to happen, versus I want to do this, or maybe I don't have enough information. I trust that the right thing is going to happen for me, and then I'll move forward from there.
Yep.
Learning, to just really trust my gut and to listen to myself has been a big game changer for me.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Wise advice
Apparently.
there.
Yeah.
All
Take
right.
probiotics too. It works out for the gut health.
Probiotics, lotto numbers, choosing the right stock. Stay away from.
Bitcoin.
I would say stay away from the crypto stuff. That'd be my advice. That don't trust your gut on that one because just unsolicited advice there. Um, I always leave the last question to my guests to ask me any question. So, last question is for you to ask me.
David,
Yes,
how do you
Cheryl.
want to be remembered?
Oh, that's an easy one. Rich. No. Um, I want to be remembered as someone so the word that comes up is someone who helped others succeed.
Okay,
And
that was
so,
too easy. I'm going to have
no,
to give you another question now. I get
yeah,
another question.
you, let's go for it, Cheryl.
I'm the guest here. I get another. No.
You could do whatever you want.
Okay. So my question is, what negative thought do you have about yourself that you haven't allowed to be proven as untrue?
I think there's a constant, if there's the angel and the devil, right?
Mm,
The the angel says, on one shoulder, saying, "Hey, you're really good at this stuff, and keep doing this, whatever it might be." The devil says, "You suck," whatever it might be. You suck at this. You're never going to be good enough. And so, on one hand, it served me when I was younger in achieving goals, getting after it, working whatever number of hours a week. It served me then, but as you were saying, adulting, you have more responsibilities, and it's easy to just dedicate your energy to one thing when that's all that matters. But
mhm,
I have a lot more responsibilities now, and I can't do that, and I shouldn't do that. And that nagging, that little voice on the left shoulder saying, "You're just not good enough. You'll never be great at this." And that's something I consistently battle. Or no, battle is not the right word. It's a constant conversation I have. And I know I'm not unique there, which is very reassuring. The best, some of the most, confident looking people, the most I consider successful individuals, they have that on their shoulder consistently saying, "You're
mm,
not good enough." And so what
mm,
I've learned over the last few years is to, instead of fighting and battling that nagging voice, is to have conversations.
mhm,
How is this true? What evidence do you have? What if the opposite was true? And just having a conversation with him or her, right? I don't know, just have a conversation. And most of the time it's just, "Oh, you're just making this all about you? What kind of egomaniac are you, Dave?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that conversation just goes in the direction of, like, as if it was a friend I was talking to.
mm,
And what I find out is, it's not the situation, it's how I judge a situation. And
mhm.
when you make it all about yourself, right, you let that ego take over, it's a poison. And I found, just have a conversation with that critic. Yeah, have a
Yeah.
nice conversation as if it was a friend, and you find
Mhm.
out your friend is just your friend's wrong.
David, what makes you worthy to have the things that you want?
That's a interesting question. Can I
Mhm.
ask you to clarify what makes me
Yeah.
worthy to have the things I
Yeah.
want?
What makes you worthy enough to let you have the things that you want? Like, sometimes
Hmm.
we don't, like, we're like, oh, we're not good at this, or I can't have this, or I'm not, like all of the negative things. But
Mhm.
instead of listing out all the reasons why we can't or we shouldn't have something that we desire, we have the opportunity to take a look at, well, why can't I have? Like, why? Like, what makes me worthy enough to have all these things that
Mm.
I want?
Yeah, I think it's all related to your last question.
Mm,
It's that inner critic that says, "Yeah, what gives you the right to do that?" Um, I think over the years, I've settled on understanding that, again, it's not about me. If I make sure it's not about me, then it's absolutely worthy.
mm,
Because if it's in service to others and to help others, if I
mhm,
make money along the way, that's fine. Fame along the way, that's fine. But if I'm doing it to help others, I find it's worth it. And
mm,
that's something I've realized about myself. That's why I started this podcast,
mm,
right? And I just did it. It's not about me, and that's why I'm at over 20 episodes now.
mm.
I was told the other day that most people don't even get to 20 episodes in their podcast. So I'm over 20 episodes. I'm a one percenter, apparently.
Look at
Um,
you.
apparently, but it's yeah, I'm worth it. I'm worthy of it because it's not to help me; it's to help others.
Mhm.
And if I happen to, get fame and money and all that other accolades because of it, that's fine. But it's to help others. And that's why what I want and what I want to do, it's absolutely, I deserve it.
Yeah. And you do, because you're a good, like, I love doing this exercise and just writing down a list. Like, I deserve to have the success I want because, I've worked hard for it. I know what I'm talking about. Like, I've worked with some really great people. I know this information. I'm great at this. Like, just really like numbering out all the things of why you should have the things that you want.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it is. And I try to take a longer term lens on it. And all the cliches of you can't bring money to the grave and blah, 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 blah. But I've had that, through experiences of my own. I realized in recent years, like the people that I really respect the most were not the people who had the most money. Were not the people with the highest titles. In fact, the folks that I respect so much, they did it because they wanted to help others. And because of that, whether they retired or they're gone from the earth, they were remembered for that. And I respect them for that. I don't care how much money they have or had. I don't care what their title is or was. So it's not about pursuit of titles or fame or anything. It's pursuit of helping others. And that's the longer view I take. And that's why I know now I'm focusing on what I'm trying to do right now. If it's in service to that longer term vision, then I know it's the right thing and it's worth doing.
That. Congratulations, David.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Well, it was a wonderful 50 minutes that we had here.
I mean, we're good at what we do.
We are very good talkers, both of us, I think. And a little hint of sarcasm and I love your style because of that.
No sarcasm whatsoever. Like, being a conversationalist is an amazing talent because not very many people can do it.
It's that's why I've been told, and I've been advised by others to understand, like, hey, that's actually a gift. Not everyone can do that, and hold a conversation for. I mean, I can go another hour easily with you.
Let's do it.
You're a conversationalist as well. I'm not sure our listeners want to hear all that. Yeah, let's get a refill.
I'm sure that they do because we are providing value, David.
We are providing absolute value. All right, Cheryl. Well, look, it was wonderful today chatting with you. Anything else? Like, what's next for you? What do you want to share with the audience here?
Oh, what's next? What's next is essentially after this, I'm going to get back to selling some more goodies. I'm going to get back to doing, like, I'm preparing for the One of a Kind show here in Toronto. So I'm going to be there this November 23rd to the 3rd. And then I'm also going to be launching my new subscription service called Affirmations and Abundance. And again, it's about creating that habit. So it's going to be monthly journaling prompts with a monthly meditation so that you can, again, start creating that habit of changing the way you see yourself.
Okay. Well, if you can provide that information to me, like the show that you're going to be at, the subscription service that you're going to be offering, I'll put that in the show notes. I make sure we put that in our all the socials after. All right. All right, Cheryl, I'm going to end recording for now. Thank you, folks, for listening.